got your list. Number one, if you recall, this morning, we started this morning and we dealt with Senate Bill 474, so you can cross that off your list. And then also, let's start up at Senate Bill 416 is a hold. Okay, so you can mark that a hold. Senate Bill 546 is a hold. And then in the back, Senate Bill 906 is a hold. So therefore, we're right off the bat at a smaller list. Okay. Now, let's jam out a couple of these local delegation bills, I think, just to get them out of the way. Oh, actually, before we do that, we have one bill, Senate Bill 370. There's a separate from Senator Hedelman. We're number 2. We're the second on a bill that B&T passed. And so Stacy, Senate Bill 370, which is a separate list, and they want us to take it up because they've already passed this bill. So why don't we knock that out first, get that out of the way?
Certainly. Find my place here. Senate Bill 370, Community Schools Rental Assistance for Community School Families Program and Fund Establishment. This bill establishes the Rental Assistance for Community School Family Program and related fund to provide rental assistance to eligible student households at community schools. The Maryland State Department of Education must administer the program, and the governor must include an appropriation of $10 million in the fiscal 2026 budget for the program. There is one amendment that was approved by the Budget and Taxation Committee. These amendments would require the Director of Community Schools to support the implementation of, rather than administer, the Rental Assistance for Community Schools Families Program. It requires the program to be administered by the Department of Housing and Community Development in consultation with MSDE. It alters the eligibility requirements for eligible student households under the program to strike a member of a household experiencing financial hardship to at least one member qualifying for assistance under the federal McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. It alters the authorized uses for payments under the program to include relocation expenses. It requires the Department of Housing and Community Development to administer the program fund, and it authorizes rather than requires the governor to include $10 million in the budget for the fund. The Budget and Taxation Committee voted favorable with amendments 10-3.
Okay, okay, yes, Senator Carozza.
Trying to understand that it went from 10 million and then what happened?
It's authorizing versus a mandatory appropriation.
Shall to may.
They made it a may, not a shall.
Page 10, line 26.
Okay, any discussion on B&T, as I say, already passed it. We're the secondary committee. Okay, we have a motion favorable from Senator Washington, second from Senator Augustine. On the bill, yeah.
This is for housing for a family with
Rental assistance, yes.
I guess I'm just wondering, don't we have housing rental assistance programs?
I'm sure.
Why are we coming through the school? If anybody attended the hearing.
So
basically, why are we going through there opposed to just saying maybe recommend through the normal process and they give them their name or something and reach out to them? I mean, I'm not sure why we're creating another program that seems already in place.
Obviously, we didn't have the benefit of a bill here.
So community schools in general are schools that are generally low income, and the goal here is to provide additional services to support students in these communities by partnering with other community providers. They call them wraparound services to help them with healthcare and other such services that may be harder to access. So the thinking here is that students who do not have consistent housing or safe housing, and they have to keep moving from apartment to apartment or place to place, may also have to move school to school as it's zoned housing. So providing rental assistance will give them more stability, and the student will succeed in school because they'll be able to stay in one school, build relationships, stay with the same teachers, have the consistent educational programming from being at one school versus moving around due to housing insecurity. That is the testimony from the sponsor of the bill.
And is it K through 12? Anybody? Look.
Yes.
Okay. And so how would they apply for this? I mean, you have a third grader. How do they get this information that they're going from place to place?
Right. So in the bill, what happens is the community school director, there's a coordinator in each school, and it's their responsibility to look at and make a plan for the school, what kind of services that they might need in that school. And they would identify families and services through that coordinator. And then the coordinator would kind of put them in touch with this program so that they could get the benefit of it if they qualified.
So they're just putting them in touch. They're not.
Right. They're working in coordination with this program.
So it's just like a referral to them? Is that what it's amended?
Can I just interject, guys? If we're gonna take any more time, I'd rather go back to our list. This is gonna be a lesser priority. This is their bill that we're second.
I'm hoping this will solve my.
Okay, well, then Senator Washington, otherwise
Yeah.
we can get to it after
Got
we
it.
get through our stuff, but okay, you go on.
So the whole concept of the community school program, it is that this coordinate, why we fund it, why it's part of the blueprint, is that you'll have a person in the school who can support students. And one of the big issues that we've not funded or been able to support is housing, and housing insecurity is a real big indicator of children's inability to succeed in school. So it's related to the blueprint, and also the fact that we have a community school strategy. So it's
Can I
not
just take a
really
look
brand
at
new.
it?
It's just.
Let's see. We're gonna put this one on hold, and then if we have time, which tomorrow, when we pick up anything we don't get through here, we're gonna try to pick up tomorrow. So we'll hold that. Let's now get back to our list, the EEE committee list. Okay, let's go down towards the bottom here. There's a Senate Bill 654, which appears to be Prince George's County initiative. Is that a delegation?
Yes, that's a
Bill?
delegation.
Okay, why don't you tell everybody what Senate Bill 654 from Prince George's County is about?
Okay.
654.
Senate Bill 654, Prince George's County Student Support Specialist Networks and Success Action Plans, Student Supports and Success Act. This bill establishes a student support specialist network with specified membership in each public high school in Prince George's County, and requires each network to develop, complete, and implement a student support success action plan. To support each network in developing plans, the Prince George's County Board of Education must, by August 31st, 2024, develop, approve, and disseminate a template for student support success action plans with specified elements. The county board must set a deadline for submission of plans for approval from networks, and each network must submit a plan for approval before implementation by July 1, 2025, and each July 1 thereafter. Each network must report on the results of the plan's implementation to the county board. There is one amendment in your packet. Sorry, I didn't look. I don't know what the page number is. And that amendment alters the date by which the Board of Education must develop, approve, and disseminate the required template to December 31, 2024 from August 1st, 2024. So there was no opposition, and the committee has received a local letter.
Okay, we have a motion on the Prince George's County delegation from the Prince George's Senator Augustine, second from Senator Watson. Any discussion on this bill? Oh, there was an amendment. I'm sorry. Move the amendment. Is there a second from Senator Watson, the amendment? All in favor of the amendment from Prince George's County delegation, raise your hand. All opposed, that carries. Senate Bill 654 as amended has been moved favorable, second from Senator Watson, initially from Senator Augustine. All in favor, Senate Bill 654, as amended, raise your hand. Okay, that bill carries unanimously. Let's go to the next bill from Anne Arundel County Senators, Senate Bill 657. Stacy.
Senate Bill 657, Anne Arundel County Student Loan Assistance Repayment Program for Educators established. This bill authorizes Anne Arundel County to establish a student loan assistant repayment program for educators employed by Anne Arundel County Public Schools. The purpose of the program is to attract, recruit, and retain a diverse cadre of qualified educators in the school system that reflects the student population with county schools. The program must be administered by Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Funds for the program must be provided on an annual basis in the county budget in an appropriation separate from the county's appropriation to the operating budget of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. Funds for the program may be used to cover administrative expenses of the program. There are no amendments. There was no opposition. A local letter has been received, and I think Senator Simonaire asked if the county approved, and they have submitted a letter of support.
Okay, Senator Simonaire, you have a motion on the senators from Anne Arundel bill?
Yeah, I'll move favorable. They may have an amendment, but we could do that on the floor as well.
Okay, so we got a motion from Senator Simonaire on behalf of the Anne Arundel senators. Is there a second? Second from Senator Carrozza. No amendments. All in favor of Senate Bill 657 clean, raise your hand. All opposed, that carries unanimously. Let's go down to the Washington County senators. Senate Bill 852.
Senate Bill 852, Washington County Board of Education Members Residency Requirement. This bill imposes a residency requirement for members of the Washington County Board of Education. Specifically, the bill requires that immediately preceding the date the board member takes office, each member of the Washington County Board of Education must be a resident of Washington County for at least 6 months and a resident of the state for at least 12 months. Under the bill, board members must maintain a primary residence in Washington County during the member's term. A board who no longer maintains a primary residence in Washington County may not continue as a board member. There are no amendments, there was no opposition, and the committee has received a local letter.
Okay, do we have a favorable motion on behalf of our Washington County Senators? Senator Lewis Young is motion favorable. Is there a second? Second from Senator Gallion. All in favor of Senate Bill 852, raise your hand. All opposed? That bill carries unanimously. Let's just go up to the next one from our state treasurer, Senate Bill 775 from state treasurer. And Alexis, why don't you describe what 775 is?
All right, Senate Bill 775, state officers and employees required surety bonds, insurance policies authorized. This bill repeals the Maryland State Employee Surety Bond Committee and transfers those duties to the state treasurer. It authorizes those positions covered with surety bonds to be covered or to be bonded or covered through an insurance policy, the term and the amount of which will be determined by the state treasurer. There are no amendments for us to consider on this bill.
Okay, do we have a motion on behalf of, is there a motion on the treasurer's bill, Senate Bill 775? Senator Carrozza, second from Senator Vice Chair Kagan. Any discussion? Again, are there no amendments?
No amendments.
No amendments. Okay, all in favor, Senate Bill 775. Raise your hand. All opposed. That bill carries unanimously. Let's go back to the first page. Yeah, let's take one because I see Senate Bill 567. We've got name of the bill is Cameron Cardin Act of 2024. I see Cameron Cardin's mother in the audience. So let's just take that up, and then we're going to go to the governor's bill. Senate Bill 567. Stacy, why don't you describe Senate Bill 567?
Senate Bill 567, Public Institutions of Higher Education, Student Withdrawal Policy, Reimbursement of Tuition and Fees, the Cameron Cardin Act of 2024. This bill requires each public institution of higher education to adopt a policy that authorizes a student to withdraw for extenuating circumstances, which specifically includes illness, injury, hospitalization, and mental health and wellness. The policy must include a provision to reimburse tuition and fees for the semester in which a student withdraws if the extenuating circumstances inhibit the student's ability to acquire an education at the public institution of higher education as defined in policy. There is one amendment in your packet on page 10 offered by Senator Muse. And this amendment strikes reimburse and requires the institution of higher education to refund tuition and fees paid by the student. So the distinction is that what happens is a student may not be actually paying the tuition. It might be a federal loan, it might be a grant. The student gets money back if they paid that money. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, with the amendment, but I also
Yes.
want to
Sure.
put
Senator
myself on
Augustine.
as a sponsor as well, so we can do
Okay.
that at once.
Okay, well, before we take that up, a question from Senator.
I move the amendment.
Yeah, the
Second.
motion, we have a motion, second on the amendment. Senator Carrozza, question on the amendment or the bill?
Does that amendment address the issues that the community colleges and university systems raise? Is that?
So I talked with House Counsel, who has the cross-file bill, and they worked with University of Maryland, and they are fine with these amendments. So everybody is
So it
copacetic.
it reimburses only if the student,
It reimburses the student the money they have paid, not money that the federal government paid through a scholarship or grant. If there's money remaining on that and they withdraw earlier and there's still money, that it has to go back to the entity that paid that money.
okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Yes, Senator Gallion.
Just to kind of refresh, so if a student is out during a semester, not at the very end, right, when they've, is that how that?
Correct.
what's the
So
timing on that?
if they withdraw before a certain percentage of time, so there's actually a complicated set of rules for each type of either scholarship or grant or whatnot. And only certain percentages of the money go back after you have withdrawn at certain parts in the semester.
Okay, so that's similar to what university system had in their,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
Okay, we have an amendment favorable on the amendment, a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, the amendment carries. Is there a motion on the bill as amended? Oh, yes, let's start with, anybody want to be on the bill as a sponsor beyond Senator Augustine? Okay, let's take hands. We got Senator Augustine, Senator Lewis Young, Senator Brooks, and Senator Feldman. I'll go on there as well.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, all in favor of the sponsor amendment, raise your hand. Okay, the amendment carries. Now, the bill as amended with those sponsor amendments and the additional amendment. Favorable motion from Senator Augustine, second from Senator Watson. Okay, discussion. Do we need a roll call or everybody good? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, that bill carries unanimously. Let's pick up, before we go to the government, one other bill from Senator Gazzoni, Senate Bill 597. Let's just take that up quick.
All right, Senate Bill 597, Human Services, Individuals with Disabilities and Service Disabled Veterans Voting Fund. This bill establishes the Individuals with Disabilities and Service Disabled Veterans Voting Fund to be administered by the Department of Disabilities. The purpose of the fund is to issue grants to nonprofits that provide sailing, boating, kayaking, canoeing, and paddleboarding opportunities on the Chesapeake Bay or its tributaries to individuals with disabilities and for service disabled veterans. And it also authorizes, instead of mandates, the governor to include an appropriation of $500,000 to the fund for grants. There is a sponsor amendment somewhere in the packet. Find it. Okay, so on page 11, and essentially the amendment adds surfing to the list of eligible opportunities for grants.
Okay. Surfing?
Yes, surfing.
Okay. Yes, Vice Chair Kagan.
Thank you. I just did a quick Google search for boating on the Chesapeake Bay for veterans with disabilities. And as I thought/feared, there is one organization, it appears. I'm just going to read. So we've heard from them, I think, before. Chesapeake Region Accessible Boating, or CRAB, is the premier provider of unrestricted access to the Chesapeake Bay. CRAB is the only boating program offering equity and equality to its guests in a fully accessible environment at no cost to them. And you can go down adaptive boating, disabled Marylanders, sailing program for veterans, U.S. access, it's all the things. So
I thought that question came up and that it would allow multiple.
if there's only one, it could allow multiple. I don't love doing laws for one group. And it's like solar app we had earlier. It's like, I think veterans with disabilities should be able to sail and surf and all the things. Anyway, I just did a search. I just figured I'd share for your consideration.
Okay, Senator Carozza, you had something? you'd
No,
like
no,
to say?
I was under the impression, I guess, when I thought I talked to one of the witnesses that this, because I think my question was, did it allow other marinas to participate? And I was under the impression that it was, the fund was in general.
For-
Fund, and it puts $500,000 in. I'd like to hold the bill and
Okay.
do a little bit of research.
Okay, we're
and
gonna hold,
grab.
we're gonna hold that bill.
And I know that's probably stupid with the
No, it's
budget
okay.
being handled now.
No, that's okay. We're gonna hold that bill and move on. Okay, let's go, let's tackle the two governor's bills for next up. We've got, let's start with Senate Bill 482, the Enough Act. And Alexis, why don't you tell the committee what the bill does?
All right, Senate Bill 482, Governor's Office for Children Engaging Neighborhoods, Organizations, Unions, Governments, and Households, Enough Act of 2024. This bill codifies the Governor's Office of Children as an executive branch office to be led by the Special Secretary. The office is required to establish grant programs to do several things, including increasing community health and safety, providing cradle to career access, connecting residents to quality jobs, et cetera. The office is authorized to award grants for technical assistance, neighborhood implementation, regional implementation, and planning. The bill specifically describes eligibility for grants and procedures for staff support for grant recipients, requires the office to conduct an annual report on finances and progress of the office, and requires an evaluation by June 1st, 2027 on broader program impacts. Requires a mandatory appropriation of $15 million in fiscal year 2026 to fund the Enough Grant Fund for the distribution of grants. There are no amendments on this bill.
Okay, we have a motion favorable, a second from Senator Washington. Senator Carozza.
Thank you, and I just, this was jogging my memory from the hearing. Would this $15 million, is that primarily going from the Governor's Office of Children to the local management boards?
So there are several entities that are eligible for receipt of these nonprofits. So there's a partnership organization. It can include local government entities, local management boards, et cetera. So it's not exclusive to them. It's intended to be broader than that.
And actually, we do have the governor's team again here in the committee. If anyone wants to come up here, we're on the Enough Act. If anybody has questions, this would be a good time to come up and field some questions from the committee. So,
Secretary Mark.
yeah. So why don't you, if Alexis
Because
or
I
Secretary is here
recall-
too.
I'm sorry, I
Sure.
recall the local management boards all came in and we actually, and then when I saw the 15 million, because I know there's been some way past challenges with supporting the local management board. So I was trying to understand if that's where the bulk of those funds would be going.
So the funds would go to partnerships that must include at least one nonprofit, community-based organization, one local school, and one governmental actor. The Governor's Office for Children does have a Children's Cabinet Innovation Fund that goes to local management boards. Local management boards would be eligible to be members of a partnership under the Enough Act, but it doesn't require that it goes to local management boards.
So I guess what I'm trying to also better understand is if that 15 million is geographically spread out to ensure that the rural areas are
Yes.
receiving those funds as well.
Yes, there'd be an application process, and people would step forward with their applications, and we will fund the strongest applications. But the bill does say that the grant should be given out in a way that is representative of the geography of the state.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any additional questions for Alexis, the Secretary, Senator Gallion? Well, we're on we have a motion and a
So,
favorable,
okay.
so this is the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think, the intentions are good with this with a lot of programs, but I just have a concern at this time where we're hearing all these budget issues coming up. Now, I know we're not the Budget and Tax Committee. We deal more with policy in a lot of ways, but ultimately you add to the size and scope of government and make a bigger government, it's going to cost more. And I did a little research on this, and this is one that there was a Baltimore Sun article, and actually the House Appropriations Committee Chair even talked a little bit about this when it comes to justifying the new spending. Quote, "It keeps me up at night thinking next year we come having passed this bill and been very pleased with ourselves, like the blueprint. Only have to cut the program, cut the blueprint." And then referred to Maryland's expensive long-term education reform plan. And then he went on to say it would be a shame, a blank shame, if we had to cut any of these programs, end quote. So it's just philosophically a concern for me, and that's why I can't support this expansion of government. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Okay, that said, let's take the roll. Lemuria.
All right.
There are no amendments.
Senator Kagan,
Yes.
Senator Kagan, yes. I'm sorry, Senator Augustine.
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion.
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young.
Yes.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks.
Yeah.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza.
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester.
Yes.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington.
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonair.
Yes.
Senator Simonair, yes. Senator Feldman.
Yes, that bill carries 10-1. I should have made the point, this bill still needs to go to the Budget and Taxation Committee for sign off. So, but we did, again, 10-1 vote. Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance. Okay, let's go to the other governor's bill, Senate Bill 472, the Transparent Government Act of 2024. Alexis, tell the committee what that bill's about.
All right, Senate Bill 472, State Government Permits, Licenses, and Certificates Processing Transparent Government Act of 2024. This bill requires each principal executive branch department and each independent unit to submit to the governor by September 1st, 2024, a catalog of information on the types of permits, licenses, and certificates issued by the department and the unit, as well as the application process and statutory authority for each. It also requires each department and unit to provide on its website a description by December 1st of this year and each subsequent year of the application process for each permit, license, and certificate. It establishes the Government Efficiency Commission to compile the information submitted by the departments and the units and to review licensing, permitting, and certification procedures and to make recommendations. The commission is required to submit an annual report under this bill. There are two amendments for us to consider. First, is on page 3, and this essentially conforms it to the posture of the House with one addition that it sounds like the House is in agreement with. These amendments sponsored by the chair delay from September 1st of this year to October 1st of this year, the date for which the catalog of information has to be created and submitted. Specifies that the portion of the catalog that describes the length of time it takes to make a final determination on a license, permit, or certificate should specifically describe the length of time taken to issue, waive, or deny the permit, license, or certificate. Requires a unit or a department to post only an interim description of application updates by December 1st, 2024, instead of each year, and to post a completed update of application information by October 1st, 2025, and each subsequent year. Removes the director of the Maryland Energy Administration from the Efficiency Commission and adds the Special Secretary of Small, Minority, and Women's Business Affairs, and adds the Secretary of Information Technology, adds those two positions. And it also adds one additional representative from the state's business community to the commission. And conforming with current practice, it adds the State Department of Education as a principal department of the executive branch under the state government article, which was an unintended omission. There's another standalone amendment from Senator Hester. I'll pull up the amendment ID if that's helpful. This standalone, it's 2235281. And this requires the catalog of information that's submitted to include the current information technology system use in permitting, licensing, and certification applications, and to also indicate related application procedures that are still performed manually.
Okay, do you want to just,
Speak on this amendment.
sure,
So there is a gentleman in my district who is a lawyer who opens business in Maryland. And it currently costs $50 for the filing fee, or $4.25 for a rush. In Virginia, it costs $100 for same day and $200 for next day. So I went down this rabbit hole of why it costs us so much more and takes so much longer. And what I found out is it's because the IT systems for these applications are on the Annapolis data center. It's and it uses COBOL, which is a 60-year-old coding language. And since the system is too old to handle even the basic tasks, every business charter must be manually reviewed by an attorney to confirm the simplest information to open a business. And so quite literally, we're slowing business down in the state of Maryland because of the IT. And I don't think it's just this one thing. And therefore, if you really want to get to the heart of speeding up permitting processes, there's definitely an IT system there. And so with that, I'd like to move the amendment, Mr. Chair.
okay, is there a motion? Is there a second? Well, here, why don't we do this before, we have the motion, before we take a second, since this is a bill from the governor, can you articulate your position on the Hester amendments so that we have the context before we?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are comfortable with the amendment as proposed.
Okay, does that make it easier for somebody to be a second? Okay, who's the second? Who wants to be a second? Sarah, okay, Sarah Washington's the second. Okay, so we have the Hester amendment, and then we have the other set of amendments that were described by Alexis. Can we just take them both together in one vote, unless somebody wants to separate them? Okay, all in favor of those amendments, raise your hand. All opposed? The amendments carry unanimously. We now have Senate Bill 472 as amended in front of us. Is there a motion? Is there a motion favorable from somebody? From Senator Augustine, a second from Senator Hester. Okay, discussion. Okay, all in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hand. All opposed? Senate Bill 472 as amended carries unanimously. Okay, let's go back to the second page and let's take a look at Senate Bill 704 from Senator Hayes and Alexis.
Senate Bill 704 appraisal gap from historic redlining financial assistance program alterations. This bill essentially changes the purpose of the appraisal gap from historic redlining financial assistance program and the Department of Housing and Community Development to include providing financial assistance to individuals who purchase a qualified property after construction or rehabilitation of that property at an affordable sales price and as an owner occupant. Under current law, the program and the money distributed through it only applies to developers. There are no amendments on the bill.
Okay, any questions? Senator Augustine, questions on Senate Bill 704? Okay, Senator Augustine's moved the bill favorable. There are no amendments. Is there a second? Second from Senator Brooks. Discussion. Okay, all in favor of Senate Bill 704, clean, raise your hand. All opposed? The bill carries unanimously. Let's go down to Senate Bill 1033. Dara, why don't you tell us what that bill does? Senate Bill 1033 at the bottom.
Senate Bill 1033, Maryland Building Performance Standards, local requests for guidance, religious considerations. This bill requires the Maryland Department of Labor, on request by a local jurisdiction and in consultation with the Office of the Attorney General, to provide guidance for the implementation and enforcement of the Maryland Building Performance Standards in relation to any religious observance, practice, or belief. There are no amendments. There is no opposition.
Okay, a bill with no amendments, no opposition. Is there a motion? Senator Washington, second from Senator Augustine. First was from Senator Washington. Okay, a discussion. All in favor of Senate Bill 1033, raise your hand. All opposed? Senate Bill 1033 carries unanimously. Let's go down to Senate Bill 1058, Senator Kramer. And Stacy, it's back to you.
So you have a standalone amendment for this. Senate Bill 1058, Education Curriculum Standards, Anti-Hate and Holocaust Education, Educate to Stop the Hate. This bill requires by January 1, 2025, the State Board of Education to adopt curriculum standards and curriculum resources for instructional content on 1, comprehensive anti-hate education, including historical contexts that have led to contemporary racism and prejudice as specified, and 2, the Holocaust. Beginning in the 2025-2026 school year, all public schools and all non-public schools that participate in state-funded education programs must include in the revised and enhanced instructional content in school curricula. Each local board of education must dedicate a portion of federal Title II funds for substantive professional development on teaching the curriculum developed under the bill. Teachers participating in professional development on the requirements must be paid or reimbursed at a locally negotiated rates and may be eligible for continuing professional development credits. So there's one amendment proposed by the chair. And these amendments essentially strike the bill as introduced. What's replaced is it defines the terms content standards, curriculum standards, and curriculum resources. It establishes certain requirements for content standards and curriculum standards that are to be developed by the department. It requires the department to review content standards and curriculum every 8 years instead of the current 10-year standard, and requires them to include stakeholders in the development and review processes. It authorizes the State Board of Education to withhold certain funding if a county board of education fails to adopt curriculum resources and guides aligned with the content standards and curriculum standards adopted by the state board. It requires the State Board of Education on or before January 1, 2025 to develop, revise, and adopt content standards, curriculum standards, or topic and grade frameworks as specified in 3 general areas: comprehensive anti-hate education, the history and contributions of historically disadvantaged groups. There's specific topics in the bill, and the Holocaust-specific instruction. It also provides that it is the intent of the General Assembly that beginning in the 2025-2026 school year, all county boards of education and specified non-public schools establish curriculum resources consistent with the content and curricular standards adopted by the state board on specified topics. And finally, specified non-public schools are encouraged to incorporate into their social studies and history curriculum at least a unit of instruction on the specified topics.
Questions, Senator Carozza?
Thank you. So we've shifted to the curriculum guides. That's the shift of the whole bill. And since curriculum is a hot issue at the local level, is there some type of engagement, either notification or a process that includes parents at all in this process? And just as soon as you see curriculum, I know it's going to raise questions of, you know, at least in my district, there's a sense that sometimes that it's a done deal before anything's shared publicly. And so I didn't know if we're doing a shift in how we're developing curriculum at the state level, what is the role of the locals, and what is, and is there some involvement of either notification or possible parental involvement?
So let me clarify that this does not change the current structure. So the State Board of Education and the department have always developed the state standards or content standards.
Standards.
As standards,
Right.
what children need to know and the skills they need to attain in order to say you got an education here. That's why these terms are defined. The curriculum standards are essentially the sequence of how these are supposed to be taught by grade level. And then there's curriculum resources and guides. That is what the locals have always been responsible for and continue to be responsible for under this bill. So essentially what it's saying is that the locals, like they've always had to do, they have to adopt their curriculum resources in alignment with the new content standards. But that doesn't change anything. That's always been the case, and that's always been the law. So there's no, whenever the state board or the department, they do a review or development of content standards, there's a process involved, and the locals are aware of that. And then when they come down, the locals have to develop their curriculum and do the professional development on the new curriculum and whatnot. So just to be clear, none of that has changed under this. We're just
So
clarifying
So what's
certain
changed
terms.
would be on page 7, where you go into what's new is having the State Board of Education establish curriculum guides and standards, not the actual curriculum, in the areas of starting on page 6 through.
Right, so this is to clarify specifically what the state board has decided. They're going to look through the current social studies, the whole spectrum of what social studies is taught. What do they call it? The comprehensive instructional program in social studies in elementary, middle, and high school. And during that time, based on grade level, based on the program of instruction, they're going to add certain topics. If you look on page 6, the first grouping under paragraph 1 there, or item 1 there, it talks about anti-hate education using historical contexts that have led to racism and prejudice in society. And then they will adopt curriculum resources that locals could use if they want to, but don't have to, that use that same content standards. Also on page 6, if you look at item 2, it says they'll develop or revise and adopt content standards for high school history to include instruction on the history and contribution of historically disadvantaged groups, topics such as genocide, torture, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the treatment of ethnic and religious minorities, and the transatlantic slave trade, though they already have quite a lot of that in the curriculum, right, in the content standards already. And in conjunction with the development and review of that, they'll revise and enhance the high school history frameworks, basically the alignment of the content and how they're going to teach it, or how it should be included in the curriculum across the grade levels and by units. And then on number 3 on page 7, this is Holocaust specific instruction. So they'll adopt content standards for elementary school social studies for grades 4 and 5, which apparently have been determined to be the appropriate ages at which to begin this type of instruction. And then adopt content standards for middle school social studies that'll start to contextualize what happened so people can understand what the Holocaust was. And then on 3, history standards in high school, modern world, to include instruction on what it is, its origins, to evaluate cause, course, and consequences of the Holocaust. So essentially, they're looking at it holistically, but the locals still have the responsibility to adopt the curriculum based on these new developed content.
You've explained that very well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I just add one other thing? Just to be clear, this was done in collaboration with and approved by, this language that's in here was approved by the State Board of Education. So I don't want anybody to be under the, under the impression that somehow we're jamming something the State Board has not signed off on. So that just got to get that out there. Senator Watson, did you have a State Department, Maryland?
You said State Board.
No,
Yes, it's all of them.
all those. Okay, all. I was thinking that, these.
So they're part and
Yeah.
parcel. The state board is the head of the dragon there, but they
Okay.
all do it together.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, Senator Watson, you're
Yeah,
next.
Just in general, I just don't understand why we continue to put pressure on the school board and the school system with the blueprint implementation. But secondly, with the changes, is the fiscal note still accurate? Because it looks like for Prince George's County for 2025, it's a $465,000 hit and $381,000 per year in subsequent years. And we're already having challenges, moving budgets around, fighting with the county council and county executive. I'm concerned that this is the wrong time to try to put additional pressure on our school systems. So I'll be voting against it.
Fair enough. Any other discussion, comments before we at least have amendments that are in front of us? Does anybody want to move the amendments first? Okay, Senator Lewis Young, favorable, second from Senator Augustine. Let's do roll calls on both the amendments and then later on the bill as amended. So the amendments, we're only on the amendments right now. Lemuria, we'll go around the horn.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
Yes.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson?
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young? Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks? Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester? Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simoneer? Senator Simoneer, no. Senator Feldman?
Yes, the amendment carries 10-1. We now have Senate Bill 1058 as amended in front of us. Is there? Okay, I have a motion favorable, Senator Augustine. Is there a second? Senator Washington is the second. We will take another, yes, discussion.
I just have a question. I think Senator Watson asked a totally valid question. I'm in page 5 of 6 of the fiscal note. And indeed, it does say Prince George's County Public Schools estimated costs of exactly what he said. I'm just so curious as to why that might be.
So
And
I
Ross, don't know.
I can give you some insight here.
I would love that.
So obviously, anytime you have to revise your curriculum, it's going to cost money. You have to develop materials, you have to do professional development and training. So in that particular case, because it is a local responsibility, then they take the financial hit in updating their materials.
I'm curious about, so it says in the same paragraph, St. Mary's County Public Schools estimates annual professional development costs of $77,760, which accounts for 3 hours of professional development per teacher per year. I mean, obviously, St. Mary's is significantly smaller than Prince George's. I'm noting the enormous difference.
So when fiscal note writers take a look and they contact each of a wide variety of the local school systems to get an idea about what it might cost, and they all come in with their own. So some may already have significant curriculum that involves this. They could look at it and take a look at the new content standards and see if this aligned or if it's not aligned. So, I mean, it's a process, and processes cost money. As if you recall, the committee, when we had the briefing and Dr. Santelises came in, she explained the process. It can cost some money, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Senator Hester, then Senator Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had 2 questions on page 11 of the reprint. I mean, I think this is something actually this committee has talked about for several years. It is an opportunity for public comment on the standards, but so first of all, when do they start with the content standards? Is it just for the content in this bill, Stacy, or is it like all of social studies broadly?
So in every 10 years, they review all of the content standards. I'm sure they take it in chunks or what they do, but they review it to make sure that it's updated, that it has, it's following the course, the recommended course, best practices, those type of things. But in this case, they're going to speed up the process. Under these amendments, they have agreed they'll start looking at curriculum pieces every 8 years versus every 10 years.
So I mean, there would have been a fiscal note for the existing process too, right?
Well, I assume it's baked in, because if they do it every 10 years, then they do it within their own budgeted resources.
Right, okay. And so then, so I mean, I was hopeful that if we got the public engaged with the standard setting process of their curriculum, the content, the curriculum standards during the cycle, then we wouldn't have like all these bills coming in. Can you teach us about this? Can you teach us about that? So do you know anything more about this stakeholder engagement? Is it going to be better than it has been previously?
That is what the interim state superintendent has professed to this committee, that their intention is to be more inclusive of stakeholder thoughts and feedback.
Okay, Senator Washington will be next, Senator Simoneer, and then we'll go back to Senator Augustine. Yes.
Also, is the fiscal note written on the revised bill?
No.
Right. So I think the pressure on the specific nature would change that. So I don't think we could go by this fiscal, yeah, I think so. It's less.
Okay, Senator Simon.
Yeah, I'm just to the core of the issue. Do we know what's being taught currently and what this bill will add to it? Because I know they said they had a survey where they went on college campuses and they didn't know stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean they weren't taught it. A lot of people don't know the capitals of every state, but we were taught it. So I'm just saying, what's added that currently is not being taught in the curriculum?
Well, I can't specifically give you that information, but you can find out exactly what's being taught because everything is online in Comar. All of the Maryland College and Career Ready standards that go through every framework for every grade, for every topic, for every skill, all online. All you have to do is go take a look.
Okay.
We can come with Simon. Okay, we're gonna go to Senator Augustine.
Yeah, I just was similarly thinking about the fiscal note for sure, for one. And then also just the kind of like just the differences in size. St. Mary's has 17,000 students, Prince George's has 131,000 students, just to kind of give a sense of the scope of the two entities. And also, just on the bill, they're having, I too wanted to like kind of look at what was there, and there's real gaps as it pertains to the Holocaust. Whereas there is some information and things like that on things like the Atlantic slave trade and things like that. So I think it's a good bill. I'm going to support it.
Hey, Vice Chair Kagan.
Thank you. I have been opposed to this for many years, which is always awkward for me because I'm Jewish. And, but I don't like mandates on local governments. I don't like curricular mandates. I don't like unfunded mandates. Like I try to be really consistent, even if it's quote, my people, it doesn't matter to me. I really try to be consistent. I really want to give a shout out to everybody who had a part in modifying it because this, I think, is thoughtful. I feel good about supporting this and the fact that it is inclusive and not, I'm not getting the right word, not dictatorial, not the same sort of specific curricular mandate. Two things. One, Senator Augustine, I think if there are 5 teachers in a room or 50 or 200 teachers in the room, there's still one person who's educating teachers about the Holocaust or about transatlantic slave trade or something. So I'm not sure 100%, but your numbers in St. Mary's versus Prince George's, it's still like 1 training session or 5 training sessions, regardless of the number of people in the room. So I'm not sure that totally works, but so are we. No, I totally get that. But there is training session, that, and they do bring teachers together. But Stacy, I wonder if I understand that there's pending legislation about professional development that might offer some funding for our school systems on this. Do you know anything about it? And is it viable? Is the bill moving?
I'm not sure which bill you're referencing, to be honest with
It's
you.
a House bill. I don't know whether there's a cross file.
I have like 125
Yeah,
bills.
I'm sure. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm aware of some of them, but not all of them. I'll be
No,
honest
sure.
with you.
Okay.
Good. More questions? Any more questions?
Yeah, no, I feel
Senator
good.
Gallagher.
I just,
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the amendments trying to address concerns that we had. Something that really stuck out to me though in that bill hearing was when the superintendent sat up there and basically said, this is something we're going to do. This is something we're going to do. So to me, she felt confident it could be done without legislation. So I have confidence in her to do this without any legislation. So that's why I'm not sure I appreciate the amendments, but I just don't think the whole thing's needed when she told us she was going to do it.
There's context there if you want it.
Yeah, there is a little context.
So in 2019, this committee and other committees received a letter from the State Department of Education that they were working on this. And I'm not sure that was actually fulfilled in the way the letter said it was. So there is a concern that despite assertions that it doesn't always get the follow through.
Can I just add?
That was brought up in the bill hearing.
Right.
That was a previous superintendent, previous regime. The current one, who's relatively new, assured us that this would get done.
That is true. I would say I asked her about it and she was unaware of the 2019 correspondence, which was quite shocking. I would have thought that would have been, something she would have been aware of, but understood. Everybody's weighing in here. I mean, this is good debate, good discussion. Okay, any further discussion before we take a vote?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, Vice Chair Kagan.
I'm sorry. So Senator Gallion, I totally agreed with you. I was heartened by Dr. Dr. Wright's comments. Because she feels good and because she feels heartened, we don't know if she's going to be interim superintendent or a forever or for a while superintendent. So I'm not sure that I'm taking that to the bank here. And second, because she feels good about it, it could be that half of our counties do this. Again, because this isn't a curricular mandate, there can be counties that just say, screw this, we're not doing it without a law. And that's why we sometimes have to pass laws. So it feels like this is as close to a mandate without actually being anywhere close to a mandate. It's a little tricky, but I think it's artfully drafted that way.
I just want to say, no, that's to be
Precise.
precise.
Yes.
That's not true.
Okay,
I mean,
go.
the content standards must be followed
Okay.
by the locals. They have to adopt curriculum based on content standards. That's always been the case. And that is what they've always done.
But it's not, you have to use this book and these pages and these chapters.
And that won't be under this either. Curriculum resources are what locals do. They're the ones who, how are you going to teach what they need to know? So they don't have to use the ones adopted by the state board or the department. They can use those ones, but don't have to. But the curriculum they do adopt has to align with the content standards. I just want to be
No, thank you.
100% clear about that.
I appreciate precision. Thank you, Stacy.
Okay, good discussion. Anybody else want to weigh in before we take a vote? Okay, we had a motion and a second before we had our good discussion.
Sorry.
Okay, Senator Lewis,
That's okay.
uh,
I just want to say, this bill's really come a long way. Thank you to everyone that worked on it. It is much more holistic, which is important, but it is really needed. I mean, just listen to any newscast, pick up any newspaper, look at the stats and the rising of hate. And when I talk to people and try to understand where they're coming from, I'll ask them, especially young people, where are you getting your information? And you know what I hear most of the time? TikTok. So it is our responsibility to make sure they get a good education and it's based on data and history. And I think we have some responsibility to ensure that. Thank you.
okay, anybody else? Okay, Memoria, take the call. Oh, what?
I think I'm actually add my name as a co-sponsor to this way better bill.
Okay. Anybody want to go on this bill as a sponsor? We have Senator Kagan. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of the Kagan sponsor
Oh,
amendment?
that feels awkward. All right.
Well,
Okay.
okay, all in favor, all opposed. Okay, that carries unanimously. So you are a co-sponsor. Now we will go on to the bill with the amendment.
All right, Senator Kagan,
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine, Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion, Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson, no. Senator Lewis Young,
Yes.
Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Brooks, Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza,
No.
Senator Carozza, no. Senator Hester, Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington,
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonaire, Senator Simonaire, no. Senator Feldman,
Yes, that bill carries 7-4. Folks, I said I wouldn't want to keep you more than an hour. It's exactly 1 hour, although I would just note I only have 3 more bills left on my little list here. Do you want to, let's see where we go? I incentivize you. Okay, next, let's go to a Hester bill. Let's go to Senate Bill 683, Senator Hester.
Senate Bill 683. 683, yeah. tree expert licenses, workers' compensation, insurance requirements and application, and renewal fee alterations. This bill removes the statutory limit on licensure and renewal fees for licensed tree experts. Under current law, the fees set by the Department of Natural Resources by regulation may not exceed the cost of processing license applications and renewals. The bill also requires each licensed tree expert and each business that employs a licensed tree expert to carry and show proof of workers' compensation insurance in the form and amount required by the department for each employee working under the supervision of the licensed tree expert. The department may permanently revoke or temporarily suspend a tree expert license if the license holder fails to maintain workers' compensation insurance as required. Finally, the bill explicitly authorizes the department to adopt regulations to implement the statutory provisions related to tree experts. There are 3 amendments. The first amendment by Senator Hester is on pages 18 and 19 of your packet, with a reprint on pages 20 to 23. This amendment sets limits on examination fees, initial license fees, and renewal fees. The amendment also makes changes to the requirements relating to insurance. Under the amendment, the bill would authorize the department to permanently revoke or temporarily suspend a tree expert license if the license holder fails to maintain liability, property, or workers' compensation insurance. There's a second amendment on page 24 of your packet offered by Senator Gallion. This would uphold the existing provision that the application fee and renewal fee may not exceed the cost of processing the application or renewal fee respectively. There's also a final technical amendment, which is a standalone document that relates to an existing reporting requirement. It's essentially just some code cleanup, adds a submission deadline for an annual report from the department.
Okay, so there's the third amendment is technical. The first was from Senator Hester, second from Senator Gallion. Yeah, so
What it looks like.
gotcha. So Senator Hester, just on your amendments, do you want to speak to them at all, or? And then we could take question, then we'll do the same with Senator Gallion.
The amendments start on
Page 18,
page 18.
reprint starts on page 20.
Yeah, so they, I mean, this is the second year that this bill's come to this committee. And, you know, there is a consumer safety issue that we're trying to address. DNR worked with the industry this year. And, you know, this is kind of the solution that they came up with. The fees haven't been raised in over 20 years. And so the additional fees will help to, you know, enforce the provisions of the bill. And then the amendment caps the fees. And so therefore it's not, it just sets an upper limit.
Okay, questions for Senator Hester about her amendment? Yes, Senator Gallion.
So just trying to remember, because since the hearing, we've dealt with a lot of bills here in the last few weeks. So I understand the safety part, totally on board with that. The fee part. So will this allow DNR to have fees over and above what it takes to run these programs? Because right now they're just whatever they charge is what it takes to run these programs, correct?
I think that they're running insufficiently right now. I would have to get back to you on exactly whether these fees are how far above the actual processing they go.
Tara, do you have any information on Senator Gallion's question?
So currently the fees cannot exceed the cost of processing an application or processing a renewal. The current fees under regulation are for an initial application, there's also an exam. That's a $30 fee. If the exam is failed, there's an additional $20 fee. A tree expert license has to be renewed every 2 years, and the renewal fee is $20. I'm unsure of the cost of processing said application or renewal fee for the department.
So how much does that, so what, under your amendment, what would those fees be now?
Let me just say, if we need some more information, we can put this on the hold list and roll this into the next voting session. If you don't have that information available. Sure, we can get the questions out and then we could, yeah, it's fair. Okay, Senator Simonetti, do you have a question? We'll just get some questions out and then
I actually have
may
several
hold this bill.
tree experts in my district, and they like part of it. The one question, just to the intent, the bill came in striking in the amount not to exceed the cost of the processing application. So that seems intentional that it could go above. And I'm just want to make sure that's the objective of striking that. In 419, 419.
As.
And if you can get back to me if we're gonna hold it, but.
Right, my sense is people are quite ready to take a vote on this, maybe, do you, unless you disagree, Senator Hester? Well, okay, before we do that, though, I'd like to get some questions out there. Senator Carrozza, what other questions would you have so that we can?
My question was on page 23, the power to revoke or suspend.
Well, because.
And is the power to revoke lifetime? Is like, and we have that other issue with the, with the licenses, with the.
That is a good question. Excuse me.
I mean, the ability to revoke a license or do a fine is something we've seen in a lot of these different, boards or departments. Whether it's a lifetime revocation or not, if it's sit for another exam, we can get back to you on
I mean,
that.
that seems a lifetime revocation seems pretty severe.
So,
I mean, I just want to remind folks that
Yeah.
they are felling huge trees, right? Which could land on somebody's house and potentially kill somebody. So like, it's not like we're talking about trimming trees. We're talking about really big trees.
Okay, my sense is let's hold the bill. Let's just let's go to the Senate Bill 707, Senator Jackson, and then we have time to take one more bill and then we'll be done. Senator Jackson, 707. Alexis, what's that bill do?
Right, Senate Bill 707, Armed Forces, support of military families and addition of state force. Generally, this bill adds members of the Space Force in the title. Generally, the bill adds members of the Space Force throughout several military-related provisions in the code and adds military spouses to protections and rights currently applicable to service members in relationship to consumer contracts. There is one sponsor amendment, the reprint of which can be found beginning on page 25. And the sponsor amendment allows the governor to award commissions, appointments, and promotions to military offices posthumously.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Questions about these amendments? Okay, anybody want to move the Senator Carrozza? Yeah, questions?
Will there be a separate amendment for co-sponsors or is this?
Sure, we can do that. Why don't we,
We're
okay.
moving the amendments.
Okay, first, before we do anything, anybody want to be on this bill as a co-sponsor? Okay, we've got Senator Watson,
Military family.
Lewis Young, Brooks, and Carrozza,
And Augustine looks like.
and Augustine. Okay, but can we adopt the sponsor amendment? Okay, all in favor of the sponsor amendments, raise your hand. And before we, yes, and Hester. Okay, actually Ed Feldman too. Okay,
Sure.
and Kagan.
Right.
Okay. But we have before we
And
move to
Senator Washington.
further amendments, let's take a question for Vice Chair Kagan.
I just had like a really random question and you can look at it anywhere, but on page 26, lines 15 through 17 and throughout the bill. Alexis, you and I tried to chat about this before. I'm so curious about the order that Space Force is being wedged into our code. It's not alphabetical, it's not size, it's not a date or year of establishment. Is there some protocol here?
For this one, I think it was because it was in front of the or. So instead of disrupting that or and adding it behind, it's a little cleaner after Air Force and then the corresponding comma and or is afterwards. But I can't think of, any other rhyme or reason for it. Other than that, but I think it's just drafting prerogative and there isn't a mandate in this part of code that it be in order of the implementation of that arms services branch.
So if you look at lines 15 through 17, it's not that. Anyway,
Lines 15 through 17 doesn't have any new
yeah,
parts of the
it adds
code.
Space Force. In the reprint, like page 26.
Oh, page.
And it's not in the same order.
I was on the wrong page.
Anyway, it's just maybe it'll end up being in the corrective or
A
curative.
that sounds like a curative bill kind of thing.
It's
Yeah,
just-
that one on the business regulation ones, I'm not,
Okay,
that is
unless
a
it's
little
material
different.
to your position,
I
on
just-
bill, I would, let's drop it, okay? Okay, back to the bill, we have the sponsor amendments on here, any discussion or conversation or a motion, I think, did Senator Watson, did you move the amendments? Okay,
And the
was there a,
co-sponsor ones.
no, no, separate than the, we've
Oh.
already adopted the
Co-sponsor.
sounds okay, but if we got on the other amendments, we've got a motion favorable from Senator Watson, correct? Is there a second? Senator Augustine. Okay, discussion of the amendments. Okay, seeing none, all in favor of these amendments, raise your hand. Senate Bill 704. All opposed, the amendments carry unanimously. I'm sorry, 707, my apologies. We're on Senate Bill 707. Yeah, it's getting late here. Okay, Senate Bill 707 now is in front of us as amended. Discussion, conversation, a motion. Senator Gallion, favorable, second from Senator Augustine. All in favor of Senate Bill 707 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, that bill carries unanimously, which brings us to the final bill on the list for today, Senate Bill 620, Senator Carter on the other side on the first page. And Stacy?
Yep.
Tell us what this bill does.
Senate Bill 620, Resources and Education for All Prisons, the REAP Act. This bill requires the Maryland Department of Labor to, one, set goals for the number of incarcerated individuals in education programs, two, establish a tracking system for the number of incarcerated individuals in education programs, three, establish a tracking system for the progress of incarcerated individuals in education programs as specified, four, forward specified data to the Maryland Higher Education Commission, and five, adopt regulations to carry out these provisions. MHEC may assist the Department of Labor in creating the required tracking systems. The bill specifies that the governor must provide funding annually in the budget bill for the Department of Labor to use for marketing for education programs to incarcerated individuals and for the required tracking systems. The Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services must assist incarcerated individuals in accessing federal Pell Grants for higher education and adopt regulations to carry out these provisions. There's one amendment in your packet from the sponsor, Senator Carter. That's on page 14. These amendments strike the Department of Labor from the bill and require only the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services to assist incarcerated individuals under the bill. Further, it requires the department to consult with specified institutions of higher education, including all University System of Maryland institutions. It makes the provisions of the bill applicable to all post-secondary education programs versus education programs generally. And it requires, instead of authorizing the Maryland Higher Education Commission to assist the Department of Public Safety in creating the tracking systems under the bill.
Okay, let's open up a conversation about the underlying bill, the amendments, questions, discussion, motions, anything? Okay, a motion from Senator Washington, a second from who? Senator Carrozza. Okay, any discussion about the amendments? Okay, all in favor of these amendments, that amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, the amendment carries unanimously. Now we have the bill as amended, and again, we're talking Senate Bill 620. Get a favorable, Senator Washington. Is there a second from anybody? Second from Senator Augustine. Discussion. Okay, all in favor of Senate Bill 620 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed. Senate Bill 620 carries unanimously, and ladies and gentlemen, that complete. Oh, what'd I do?
No, can I do a?
Oh, there's one
You
Let's-
guys.
Yeah,
I
let's
have
go
the-
back, let's go back to, we have a request to be added as a sponsor to Senate Bill 472, Senator Kagan.
If you guys mind, I totally missed co-sponsoring any of the governor's bills, and after so many years of working on transparency issues, I would really love to be added on this bill,
Okay.
if you guys wouldn't mind indulging me.
No objection. So we're gonna make a motion retroactively to add
472.
472 to add
Thank you.
Senator Kagan as a co-sponsors. I'll make the motion. Senator Augustine seconds. All in favor of allowing Senator Kagan to
Thank
be
you.
added to the governor's
Appreciate it.
bill on transparency. And that carries. We are done. And that was a
Done.
good productive day that started at 9 a.m. and ended at 7:30. Well, okay.